Careful that I should speak as a political leader in the country. I hasten, however, to point out that besides being a politician, I am also a professional in my own right. As you will recall, that I am a land economist, valuer, and a member of the Institute of Surveyors of Kenya. You will therefore permit me to wear my professional cap as well, so that I don't just speak as a politician. Indeed, the gravity of the matters before us as a country is so heavy that it requires serious professional reflection and not political juggling and filibustering. Allow me to commend the organizers of this forum for bringing us together as professionals from diverse fields to reflect on the issues that have been addressed in this summit. Traditionally, we have tended to operate in isolated silos and pigeonholes. Each individual profession has thought that it has the first and last word on everything. It is becoming increasingly clear than ever before, however, that the solutions to the numerous challenges of our times rest in interdisciplinary approaches. Accordingly, I salute the organizers of this event and all of you who have found it worthwhile to participate, and especially for choosing also to listen to me. We are assembled here at a time when our country finds itself at a very critical crossroads. We must choose whether the country will survive or perish. Whichever choice we make will have very serious implications for us as professionals. We who are gathered here must ask this question: have we carried our professional sacrifice way far beyond the crossroads of our professional ethics and promise? A quick look at some of the recent happenings and revelations in our country is jarring to the professional of goodwill. The most common coin in conversations in the country today is grand corruption. You should be forgiven if you imagine that pirates and sundry masters of plunder have taken hostage the country's public institutions. At the very minimum, pirates are hibernating in public institutions. Together with their local and foreign allies, they are using their presence in government to ruin the country. It is instructive that when you say the country is being looted, someone whose name nobody has even mentioned is the first person to say, "I am not a thief." He says the amount you're saying has been stolen is not right. What has been stolen is less than that. He goes further and tells you the stolen money has been insured. Such are the tragic times we live in as a nation. We must ask the next set of questions. What has been the role of the professional in bringing the country to its knees? What should the role of the professional be? And will professionals remain relevant anymore if the country continues in the direction that a section of the top brass in governance seems to have defined and is determined to drive towards? Why, may I ask, do Kenyans wake up each morning to mind-boggling reports of looted billions? Why are there corresponding and provoked denials from sections of the state? Newspaper headlines read like the apocalypse. And just listen to this. DCI probes missing 5.6 billion e-citizen cash. You paid 21 billion for an empty ticket. Riddle of 61 billion money pit at KPC. Scandal of 1 billion spilled oil at KPC. Jubilee's 7 billion project collapses. Power farm in shillings 14 billion scam. Sports ministry in 1.7 billion scam exposed. Who was paid what in NYS? How shillings 2 billion was lost in the forest? Kenyans to pay 6 billion in a meat factory scandal. How banks cleaned dirty NYS billions? Where is the 122 billion Eurobond fortune? IEBC unable to account for 9.2 billion, and you could go on and on. The question is this: where is the Kenyan professional in all this matter? We must satisfactorily answer the question of the future of professionals in Kenya. We must first reflect deeply on these disturbing headlines and what they contain. Let us look at some of the things that we have done regarding the now infamous water dams. And listen to me very carefully. It is of interest for Kenyans to note that this government had committed to build 57 dams during their tenure. 57 dams, and not water pans. 57 dams, and not water pans. Can anyone, here or elsewhere, point out a major economy or country anywhere in the world that has committed to such a target over the same time frame? If China cannot set out to construct such dams, if the US cannot set out to accomplish such a feat, if Saudi Arabia, with all the oil money, cannot do this, then who are we? Where is the technical and financial capacity available for us to achieve this monumental task? The spin-off is that the dams were always designed to be conduits for graft. Juxtapose this haste with the famine and attendant humanitarian crisis in some parts of the country where some of these dams were supposed to be built. You cannot help being saddened by the wickedness that informed some of these projects. Let me go further. Over the past 6 years of this government, it is estimated that 165 billion shillings has been spent on dams. Almost without exception, they have suffered an assortment of setbacks. There have been no geological surveys and no designs. And I think the previous panel really spoke to this issue. There have been poor site conditions with underground caves leading to heavy losses. There has been poor design and sometimes no design altogether. There have been abnormal variations in cost and compensations that defy logic. Sometimes there have been multiple design reviews, each of which has attracted horrendous fees. Where have been the professionals in these developments? If the project has been overpriced, who did the costing? It must be the quantity surveyor. working with the planners, engineers, and various other professionals. If the designs have been the problem, where has the responsible professional been? If the contract has been the issue, where are the legal experts who have been part of the project? If repayment schedules to development partners or creditors are the issue, who is the financial expert that negotiated the quantum, the interest, and the repayment schedules? More specifically, let me just highlight one or two dams. The Badasa Dam in Marsabit was allocated 1.9 billion shillings. I'm not even touching the famous ones that have been in the paper. But let me just talk about a few others. The facts on the ground indicate that the designs were faulty. The price was increased by 1.6 billion without justification. Moreover, feasibility studies were never done for this project. There was no geological survey. And ironically, when the excavation process started, some of the heavy earth-moving equipment started sinking in the ground rather than excavating, because there was no geological survey to establish the conditions. So when the machines started vibrating, rather than excavating, the machines were sinking. In the end, the project was abandoned after billions had been sunk into it. It has been proposed for revival with astronomical variations in the cost. In Kajiado County, there has been the Kiserian Dam. I'm sure those of you who traverse that area, you may even now start asking, where is this Kiserian Dam? It is located at the downstream of a sprawling slum. You don't have to be told that there is heavy sewerage and discharging into the dam from the slum area. There is siltation and dumping, and the area is not even fenced. You can visit it and confirm these facts. I'm not creating a story. When you are back in Nairobi, just go and visit and see for yourself. More than 1 billion shillings has gone. And the county government of Kajiado is talking of looking for more money for that dam. The Chemosusu Dam in Baringo has suffered a major increase in pricing by up to 1.6 billion shillings. There's a huge variation between the tender price and the price by the engineers. Who is wrong or who is fooling who? In Kitui, the Uma Dam stalled after 575 million Kenya shillings had been paid. This year, a variation of 1.9 billion was made to revive the project. Once again, the question is, why this abnormal variation, and where are the professionals? Elsewhere, there exists today in the Ministry of Infrastructure pending bills to the tune of 180 billion shillings, as opposed to a budgetary provision through Mheshimiwa Amolo Tiende and other parliamentarians, as opposed to a provision of about 60 billion shillings. So here are pending bills, 180 billion worth of pending bills, and Parliament can only allocate you 60 billion shillings. The gap between the two figures is obviously a factor of graft. Put this together with other acts of plunder in KPLC, in Galana Kulalu, in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and in the National Youth Service, in the Ministry of Environment, overplanting of forests that were never planted, in Ketraco, in NHIF, in Afya House, in KFS, in the Eurobond, and in IABC, among other scandals. You begin to witness an expansive landscape of unbridled theft in state office. You begin to appreciate that we are a people in a rut. There are grave concerns here for us all as professionals, let alone as patriotic citizens. Kenyans should not be deceived. These happenings have jolted our international development partners, who are now seriously contemplating scaling down vital support in needy areas like the water and health sectors. Indeed, it should not surprise us to see them drop out of some of these projects altogether. And I can tell you, as much as this is happening elsewhere, as much as it was happening in Kimorer, happening in the areas that I'm talking about, one of the development partners has a portfolio of about 1.2 billion Kenya shillings in the water sector. They have not been able to utilize about 50% of that portfolio because there are challenges, very serious challenges. And as we speak, areas like Budalangi, where dikes are supposed to be built, there's now a threat that what is happening in this sector, the Budalangi dikes, may not see the light of day. As we speak, we have here in Kwale the Mwache, proposed Mwache Dam. It's also under threat because the government of Kenya cannot meet its commitments, its counterpart funds, as required to be able to provide those dams to the people, to compensate the people. In some areas, sorry to speak, the issue of proper governance has deteriorated so much that in some areas you get the international partner complaining about even sexual harassment in the process of designing and working towards this dam. That is the level of impunity. It's not just about stealing, but now there's even harassment of some of the people who are designed or who are supposed to work for the Kenyan people in these areas. That is a very serious thing. Either we, as professionals, have accepted to be compromised by being reduced to vectors of corruption in these projects, or we have been marginalized and surrendered our space to quacks and dilettantes. Instead of vigilantes, we have become quacks and dilettantes. Whatever the case, we are not redeemed at all. We have, as professionals, surrendered the dignity of our callings, training, and qualification to abuse. We hear today of cowboy contractors who are building shoddy roads and substandard bridges that are washed away with the first gentle showers of rain. We read of quack medics carrying out surgical operations in hospitals, and of quack pilots flying aircraft without proper certification. Are we professionals protecting our space from invasion by these quacks and dilettantes? Can we stand up to be counted in defense of our professional territory and its sanctity? Can professional bodies be counted upon to enforce the ethical standings of their terrain? Can they strike off the registers, rogue colleagues, and bring external impostors to book? Training in the various professional areas in the country has also taken a steady beating over the years. There's an urgent sense in which qualified and certified professionals must insist on the highest possible standards of training and qualification before new entrants can be admitted and allowed to practice. We live today in an age where quantity has taken precedence over quality. Even universities boast of massive numbers of graduates in graduation squares without the requisite consideration for the quality of training the new crop of professional entrants has had. In the end, industry risks being subjected to quasi-professionals who in reality are square pegs in round holes. We must revisit the question of quantity versus quality in professional training. In any event, the gears of training must be in synchrony with the engines of planning. A national profusion of raw professional numbers that only lie idle in the post-training dispensation are not helpful to anyone. In professional gatherings such as this one, ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the concerns that we must continue to reflect about if the professional must be relevant and respected in future. If we allow the present trend to continue, the professional risks being an irrelevant laughingstock. Will we stand up to be counted? Another strand of training is mentorship, and you spoke to this, and role modeling. When you look at yourself and the way you do things, are you satisfied that you are being professional? What kind of role model are you to younger persons? In a country where stealing, even in professional cadres, has become a way of life, there's every risk of giving very bad examples to future generations of professionals. Each one of us must interrogate ourselves as role models. Have we also seen the political class attempting to stop professionals from doing their work, especially in the war against corruption? What latitude are we giving to our auditors and to investigative professionals? Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen, even in a situation of emergency, and I'm talking about wearing a professional hat. I'm not a medical doctor, but you find there's an emergency, and some politician like myself goes there and starts trying to attempt to direct a doctor on how to treat the people who are facing the emergency. And this guy has never even maybe seen a chemistry lab. But that is what he's attempting to do. Why have we been intimidated as professionals by politicians? Why? Nimetupa kofia yangu ya siasa kando, but as a professional, why are you being intimidated by the likes of us as politicians? Mtu hajasoma, lakini kwa bahati ametunikiwa cheo, alafu anakuja na kulazimisha weka sahihi hapa, sahihi, alafu unasahau na unaweka sahihi. When Kinoti comes calling, and ethics and the police, my friend, they will not be looking for that illiterate fellow who was standing behind you and telling you to put the signature. It is you. Wewe ndio umeweka sahihi. It is you. I don't want to mention names, but I was somewhere in KO some time back, almost 3-4 months ago, and I was speaking to some issue, especially when I was talking about the issue of public debt, which people were saying this man is ranting and talking about public debt, yet we have the capacity to pay, and I kept on repeating it. Of course, the admissions are now beginning to come through that I was right. We have engaged in very reckless borrowing, and the geese have come home to roost. When I said this in Iten, I told the people, you know, I want to advise as a friend of this area. Go and tell your son somewhere that I've been there before. Hiyo kona ni mbaya. Ile ilikuwa inaitwa inaitwa nini hiyo ile wimbo na ile kona hiyo. Kariobani. Hiyo kona ni mbaya. And I kept on telling them, go and advise your son that he has been put under pressure, and I know he's appending to a lot of documents, but when it will come that you have to be held to account, the person who will be making visitations to Kinoti, to ESCC and what have you, will not be those people who are lurking behind the curtains, trying to tell you all is well. It will be you who will be going to write and answer statements. I said this. I have not mentioned anybody. Sijataja mtu. But I said it 3 months ago that it is going to happen. Alright, finally. Ladies and gentlemen, with the foregoing challenges for us, I am pleased to declare this first interprofessional summit in Kenya officially closed. I look forward to seeing you again next time with some answers from you on the questions that I have posed today. Thank you very much.
Delegates, thank you. You may be seated. Allow me to invite our two chairpersons, the President and